be like here's how to identify 1 billion mushrooms, because it's a lot. There are a lot of mushrooms. Even like the really charismatic ones have like 3 things that look like them. It's there's a lot of stuff. Also, I'm no mushroom expert. This is just a passion of mine, and it's been a lot of fun finding out a load of things myself while I was writing this talk. Also worth noting as well, a lot of the mushroom groups look very similar. Like you can have, they're pretty arbitrary as well with their kind of phylogeny. There can be multiple taxonomic groups that are sort of called the same thing because they look similar rather than actually being super related to each other. But let's get into it. I thought it's worth defining at the beginning what actually is a mushroom. So a mushroom is the fruiting body of a much larger organism. A mushroom is not like a whole species of fungus. A mushroom is basically the like reproductive part per se. Not really. It's kind of it's a thing that comes out of the ground and basically shoots spores, the equivalent of eggs. And these eggs will then go off and start new colonies. So the main entity of a fungus exists in the substrate, which is like the ground, whatever it's growing out of. So this could be like a tree. This could be the ground. It's just basically whatever the mushroom's growing out of. There's these hyphae here. Like these are like the main like body of the fungus. It's sort of like these little strands of these are like the actual fungus cells. These make up these hyphae strands, and what these do was like they'll excrete their enzymes and suck up whatever like little juices they want from the soil or the substrate that they're in, and then when it's time to grow, the hyphae make up this mycelium, which then makes up like the whole thallus kind of network of fungus. So the purpose of a mushroom is to spread the spores. The hyphae kind of tangle up together and then make these mushrooms pop up, and these mushrooms will then pop up and produce spores. This can be asexual or sexual, depending on if 2 colonies bump into each other. So yeah, mushrooms often will pop up around the edge of a mycelium. So this is what a fairy ring is. If you see this, so this, let me just draw it. So the actual fungus, all of this is like this stuff underground. So this is like where all of the fungus is. And then the new growth around the edge is what's popping up all these mushrooms, which is what's creating the. So you think this is like where the original spore would have landed, and it's basically just branched off and grown from here under the ground, and it's popping up its reproductive parts around the edge. So I thought it would be worth mentioning sort of some basic anatomy of a mushroom. So this is an agaric mushroom. This is like the typical mushroom shape. So this is made up of a cap. So it's just the top, the normal sticky up bit, which is called a pileus, if you want to be specific with it. And then these are the gills underneath which carry the spores. They're called lamellae. The ring, or the annulus, this is a leftover part of something called partial veil, which I'll mention in the next bit. It basically protects the gills before the spores are ready to come out. And then a stalk, or the stipe. And then the vulva, which is this like leftovers of this thing called a universal veil, which is like basically like an egg for the mushroom before it's ready to come up. So this is those two in more detail. This is the universal veil. So when the hyphae come together to create the mushroom, the first thing that pops up above the ground is this universal veil, like this kind of looks like an egg, and then the mushroom develops inside of that and then pops up and then grows upwards. And a lot of them will leave the remnants of that universal veil at the base to become vulva, which is useful in identifying certain types. And then this is the partial veil. This will like peel off when it's ready, when it reaches its maturity. So this basically, as soon as the spores are ready to come out, the partial veil like comes off, becomes the ring or the annulus, and then the gills start producing spores. Also, it's worth mentioning what the hyphae or what the actual fungus feeds on determines where you'll find a mushroom. So mushrooms can be saprotrophic, and they can feed on like dead and decaying matter. This is like what you typically associate mushrooms with, like dead stuff, dead trees, like basically just decomposing. They can be mycorrhizal. So I didn't actually know this when I came to uni, but basically almost every plant on the is basically in an association with its roots with fungus. So fungus actually help, these mycorrhizal fungi can help. They're like it's a symbiotic relationship, and they help plants get nutrients in. And plants grow much, much better with these mycorrhizal fungus. And basically, I didn't realize, but the actual mushrooms that grow around the base of trees are in a relationship, in a symbiotic relationship with the roots. So a lot of them will grow like this. So if you find stuff growing on like a tree, the tree's probably dead and it's saprotrophic. If it's like growing under a tree, it's in a relationship with the roots, and that'll be a mycorrhizal fungus. And then I had to stick in the parasitic bit. And this is cordyceps. We don't really get that here. I just put it in because it was cool. But you'll often find, I think the birch polypore, stuff like that. They'll grow parasitically on trees that are kind of getting a bit creaky, but they're still alive and kind of coming to the end of their life. They suddenly get covered in all of these like fungi because they lose the ability to defend themselves. So the first group I'm going to cover, the agarics. I gave you a bit of an anatomy of an agaric a while back, but basically these are your like standard run-of-the-mill mushrooms. If you see something outside, you go, "Hey, that's a mushroom. That's probably one of these." They're characterized by having their pileus basically clearly separated from the stipe. It's not attached at all under here, so it's like you can see this. It's clear. There's no like gills going up the side or anything like that you can find in some others. It's just straight up gills, cap. It's just like a standard mushroom. This is that annulus again. Okay, so the agaric form is used to relate to any kind of mushroom that looks like this. There is a big taxonomic group of agarics, which of course give it its name, but then they can have like some of the others like boletes can look like agarics and stuff, but it just recognize the form is what I'm getting at. So I was saying most of the charismatic species will probably be in this. I'm going to cover two of these now and show you a few lookalikes and stuff. I'm not going to get super into these. So this is fly agaric, or Amanita muscaria. This is probably the most famous mushroom like in the world. It's in Mario. If you ate it, it wouldn't make you big. It would just make you shit everywhere. So don't do that. Mario is not real. There are a few lookalikes, but if you see something that looks like this, it's basically a fly agaric. There aren't a great deal of stuff that looks like them. Something worth mentioning, these warts on the top, they're completely superficial and they can just wipe off. Those warts on the top are remnants of the universal veil, that egg sac that the mushroom would have popped up from. So yeah, this has all of the traditional agaric characteristics. This has, it's got the cap, the annulus, and it's got the vulva down there. You can't really see in that photo. And then the beautiful gills. It's very standard. Yeah, not deadly. It won't kill you, but I mean, if you know one thing about nature, you're not going to eat something that's bright red. So there's a few lookalikes, but really, if you've got the warts on it and it's bright red, there ain't a great deal like it. This is Russula emetic. I looked this up, and it's actually called the vomiting mushroom. So don't eat it. They're not even edible anyway. So just. But this basically doesn't have this. It has a really thick stipe, and it doesn't have that ring around it, nor a vulva actually. There we go. And then this is another one. There are a lot of agarics that sort of look very similar with these wartiness on them, and they'll have the ring and the vulva, as well as these warts. But if it's not red, it's not fly agaric. Worth mentioning as well, super famous, this is the most dangerous mushroom in the world. It's basically found everywhere. It's found in a mycorrhizal association with certain types of conifer, I believe. Or like it can be in with loads of different trees. So this again has all the traditional agaric stuff. To be a death cap will always have this annulus, this cap, this vulva. If it doesn't, then it's something else, because it has to have this like specific agaric kind of stuff. It's nice white gills, but the top is often like not perfectly white. When they're little, like this one, they can kind of look a bit like a puffball. You can't even eat the like small puffballs. You can eat the bigger puffballs, but you're not going to eat anything that's that small because they're not actually. I don't even think they're edible at that rate. But they'll be in woodland again. Mycorrhizal associated with roots. The annulus and the vulva can be removed, like if something eats them or if it rains really heavy. This annulus is so fragile that it often falls off, so you can't really use it as a specific part. But the vulva is usually kind of buried in the ground, so unless something eats it, it should hopefully be there. Two main lookalikes for death cats. By giving them lookalikes, I want people to know what this looks like, because it's such an important mushroom. Not like, oh, I can't properly kill myself with the wrong type of mushroom, you know, because you don't want to eat death cat. They're not very fun. So this is false death cat. This is very similar. It's got the annulus, the vulva, the kind of normal agaric stuff. It has a very, very large vulva at the bottom, bigger than the death cat, and it's also kind of more buried. It has like a white cap rather than the kind of greeny brown. It's also got like these like off-white warts on it. If it's got warts, then it's not a death cat. It smells like raw potato. I wouldn't exactly want to get my nose up in a death cat, but you know, if you want. This is the Destroying Angel. This is the other super duper deadly one we have, but it's actually a lookalike, so I thought I'd cover both. This is like a very white. That's why it's called an angel. The gills are kind of much closer together. It's again got the normal agaric shape with the cap, the gills, the annulus. It's really likes growing on the conifers. It's again a mycorrhizal one. So the next group we're going to cover are the boletes. These are your thick boys. These are the large gentlemen of the mushroom family. And they are very large and fleshy. They've got a big bulbous stipe and no ring, no annulus on them. Their spores are delivered through pores under the cap. They don't have like the gills like you would see in an agaric. They have like these tiny little pores, and basically the spores just fall out of them. They grow at the top, and then when they rot, they just fall out. And these would grow out of the ground. You wouldn't find many of these like saprotrophically on trees and stuff. These are more like they'll grow in the soil. Yeah, no deadly ones. If you eat a bolete, you're probably not going to die, but you know, don't eat stuff unless you 100% know what it is. The poisonous ones always look kind of red. There's also this type that if you cut it with a knife, if it rapidly oxidizes and turns kind of green or blue, it's a poisonous one. A lot of them look very similar. I didn't actually cover any species identification of a bolete, but if you can see here, this is the agaric that I covered earlier. Look at the gills on that, opposed to these pores. That's how you tell them apart, especially because it's just thick as hell. Next group, the polypores, or the bracket fungus. These are another gorgeous lot of them. This is my very own WAP. This is my wet-ass polypore. And these will grow mostly saprotrophically on dead stuff. These are the biggest like decomposer as such. And these have spore tubes again, like the boletes. I forgot to mention, but in the boletes, you can pull off the layer. You can pull off the spore like pores very easily, and you can't do it in with a polypore. So these polypores don't die after they spore. Like a lot of the mushrooms will come up and they'll spore out and then they'll die, which is why you don't see them through like many of the like ground mushrooms through like winter and spring and stuff. They'll just pop up in autumn. But yeah, these basically they grow like tree rings. You can see here on this horsehoof fungus. They basically grow a ring every year, and you can age them with that. And the fruiting body is called a conch. Some resemble more traditional mushrooms. Like this is, some of them can kind of grow out like a mushroom. Oh, that's the worst mushroom I've ever drawn. But they'll they'll pop up and they'll like have a stipe and stuff rather than that. I think I'll cover these as well. This is chicken of the woods. I'm going to get into that in a minute. This one is horsehoof or tinder fungus. You can, I think this one holds a flame. It's very fibrous. And if you're ever out in the woods, you can start a fire with it. And this one, this beautiful one, is called artist conch. And basically this, it will like you can basically draw on it because it decolors when you, like, if you were to scratch it. So if you scratch it, it would go brown. So this is some art that someone's drawn on it by just scraping it. I think it's very beautiful. So this is Chicken of the Woods. I found some of this in the viaduct. So there isn't a great deal of stuff that looks like it, nothing that's really poisonous that you'll actually find. It's this like orange conch, but it's got like yellow ends. It's a very, very distinctive one. It's like an entry-level one. It's got yellow pores underneath here, look. Doesn't bruise when you cut it. There's a type called blackening polypore that's sort of a look-alike that will blacken when it cuts, but that's also edible. Can be more yellow-brown. This is Chicken of the Woods. There's a whole genus called Chicken of the Woods, but this is the biggest, like the one that's the least hard to mistake for something else. And it does actually taste like chicken. I ate some of it. It didn't agree with me, but it tastes like the best quorn that you can ever imagine. It basically tastes like chicken. It has the texture of chicken. It's insane. So talking of lookalikes, we have, oops, I appear to have changed the color of the background when I, rookie error there. But basically this is the jack-o'-lantern fungus. This is I think it's a polypore. No, it's not polypore, sorry, it's a chanterelle thing. But this has the gills underneath, which of course you don't get on a polypore. So these are like bright orange the whole way through. Even if you cut them in half, they're orange as well. And they grow from a stipe rather than the normal like chicken of the woods, which doesn't as such. And these will have the gills that run down the stem rather than the pores that you get on a polypore, so it's not really much of a giveaway. This one as well, the velvet top fungus. The top of it is why it's called velvet top, and it's kind of brown. It bruises when you cut it. Sorry, I changed the color of the background like an idiot, and I've done this stuff for spacing. So the top is kind of furry. It's very much not on Chicken of the Woods. So the next group that I'm going to cover are the gasteroids. These are your puffballs, your earth balls, stuff like that. And basically what defines these, or rather, there isn't actually anything that defines these as such. It's just the body form of them. So this is very, very polyphyletic. They're from all over the shop, but it's basically the body form. And what you can call it a gasteroid is if it produces the spores inside of the fruiting body, rather than from gills. So it doesn't have like gills under it. They can grow on a stalk, but they're very, very diverse. But they're like a ball. They'll grow the spores inside of this ball, and then when they come to ripening, they'll either make a hole in it or just like grow until they rip, and you can squeeze them. That's a little puffball there. And the spores are internal and require something external to get rid of the spores from inside. So I think the earth balls tear open. And then some launch them using raindrops. This very, very gorgeous one here. This is called bird's nest fungus. You can see one there with its cap on, which is why it's gasteroid. But basically these are like little seeds covered in spores. And when a raindrop would hit it, these would like fly off and basically, land somewhere else and make a new lot. So that's sort of those are like the big four. But now we're going into a few like niche ones. There's cantarales. I can't really pronounce it, but these are the chanterelles, stuff that's similar to those, and they're characterized by having these gills that would either be like part of the stipe. Like here, this isn't like on an agaric. You wouldn't have this going up the stipe. They're like at the top and then go across. But these are usually cone shaped, like this chanterelle. It's sort of like a trumpet, comes out like that. And it's called a hedgehog fungus, and I think it's gorgeous. It has like all of these like little gills that hang down, like these little teeth. Yeah, and the lamellae attached to the stipe. Mostly mycorrhizal. The chanterelles are mycorrhizal. And again, no annulus. So I thought I'd cover these. These are the chanterelles. These are one of the most prized mushrooms. They are absolutely delicious. The edges are wonky. It's not like a circle. It's kind of looks like you kind of whacked it with a spade or something. It has a big dent in the middle. The gills run up the stipe, and they have this forking. They're not really true gills as such. They're more just folds with some spores on them, which separates them from some of the lookalikes. And then they, again, because they're at this trumpet, it kind of tapers towards the bottom. And they're yellow on the outside, but they're always white on the inside. That is how you tell them apart if you were to actually find these. So they're always white on the inside. If it's not white, then it's not a chanterelle. So there's some lookalikes again. This is the jack-o'-lantern again. It kind of looks like it. You can see it's got that kind of vaguely trumpety shape with these kind of gills underneath. But it's way more orange, doesn't have the white flesh on the inside. It grows in a big bunch with chanterelles on the floor. And it doesn't have these forked gills, it's got actual gills. And then this is the one you've got to watch out for, the full chanterelle. This is like a similar kind of size, similar shape. But it's kind of orange. It's not that yellow. It doesn't have the white flesh. It's this kind of gross, kind of orange. And it's got way more gills, and they're not, again, not the forked ones. They're just actual straight gills. And the top is basically a circle. It's like that rather than, like the chanterelle being wobbly. Next one, the Pezizales. Again, butchering the pronunciation. These are cup fungi and morels. So the reason that these look so wacky is they're from a completely different phylum. I like to think of this as it's sort of like, you know how crabs have basically evolved like 4 times or whatever. The crustaceans like keep just evolving crabs because it's like the best best sort of body form for that kind of size. But this is basically a completely different genetic lineage that has basically come to the same way of distributing spores. But these can be cup shaped. So these are the cup fungus, and this is a morel here, which is another very tasty edible one. These morels have these deep cup shapes, like they're like pits. They're very spongy and kind of jelly, not jelly-like as such, but it's sort of kind of plasticky kind of feel. So the cup mushrooms produce spores from inside of the cup. They produce them from the top of their cap, which is a very distinct thing. And they're very fresh and fragile, like I just said. Morels, this is just a bit of interest. They are really prone to popping up when there's been forest fires. So if anybody really wants to go find some morels, go and burn down a load of forest. Please don't actually do that. But this is a morel here. It's another just super tasty one. They're also super toxic. So if you find one, just ring me up and I'll come and remove it for you so you don't accidentally eat it. But they can be brown, black, yellow. They're sort of, as long as they have this kind of pitting, these are actual holes, and there's a network of irregular ridges. These are actual like cratery holes, pits and stuff. A lot of the lookalikes don't have these pits. The mushroom is basically completely hollow. The stem is hollow, and the cap is also hollow completely. So yeah, the stipe is connected to the cap, and it's all just one big hollow cavity. The flesh is thin and white as well. And they have these like furrows. You can see it's kind of a bit wonky. They're not. It sort of looks rather phallic and sort of veiny on the stipe. So there are 2 main lookalikes. They're both called the false morel, which is a bit counterintuitive, but basically you could see immediately that is not a morel. They're sort of brain-shaped, a lot of sort of folding rather than actually being holes. And it's also not hollow. It's red and brown rather than being kind of black or yellow. This one, however, this other false morel, is a lot more similar. And that has, again, it's more kind of folded, but it looks quite distinct like kind of morel shape. It doesn't have the pits that you would expect on a morel. So the rule of thumb: if it ain't hollow, don't swallow, chaps. That's what they look like when they're cut in half. Neither of them are hollow. That's the one false morel, and that's the other. That's an actual morel. These are the 2 lookalikes, and they just do not. They're not even slightly hollow. So that's what gives it away. These are 2 like little groups. that I thought I'd throw in. I'm not going to really go into much detail because, again, super polyphyletic, a lot of stuff going on. So these are the jelly fungus, or I'm not even going to try and pronounce that. So these are kind of like the gooey ones. They're not really mushrooms, but they're sort of the gelatinous and wobbly ones, like this ear fungus or this yellow brain fungus, sort of wobbly, wobbly goodness. And then these are the wax caps. These are quite a common one, but identifying them is really quite hard. So these are like waxy, often translucent. They sort of like always a bit gooey. That's a parrot, yeah. They're very pretty, but they're also quite kind of juicy and damp, and they'll grow like on soil, grasslands, woodlands. They're quite a tough one. So I was gonna call the actual content there. I'm gonna go into a quiz, but does anybody have any questions before I get into the quiz? I just completely. This is supposed to be an hour's talk. No, nobody want to question anything I've said, or should I just get onto the quiz? All right, let's get into the quiz then. Right, so the first round I'm going to do in this quiz is what group of mushroom is this? So this is basically like, is it a agaric, a bolete, sorry, polypore, castroids, you know, tell me what it is. So, first one, what do you guys think this one is? Yep, it is indeed a thick boy. So yeah, this is a bolete. You can tell because of the gills underneath of these pores, and he's also rather large. So yes, this is a bolete. Next one up. What is this? You think about where it's growing and the kind of shape. Yes, it is a polypore of the wet ass variety. But yeah, this is a polypore. You can tell because it's growing flat out of a tree. You know, it's being saprotrophic. It's not in the ground. There's no visible stipe. Also, to be, I see Emily, an agaric. It's not an agaric because agarics are the like standard mushroom shape. You know, they've got the cap with the annulus and the vulva and stuff like that. The gills underneath. I guess I didn't show you the gills, but it's not, unfortunately. I'm just seeing what's being typed in the chat.
The mushrooms you buy from the supermarket, they're agaric, aren't they?
They are indeed. They're called field mushrooms. Or horse mushrooms, depending what it is. So this is a bit of a curveball, this one, but what is this? Just as a type. Yeah, yeah, you guys guessed right. This is a gastroid. You can tell this little hole here would be, I think, where the spores would leave. I tried to throw you off because it's on a stalk, but they can be on a stalk. It's just depending on this kind of bulbous thing at the top where the spores would be inside of. So yeah, well done everyone, destroyed. Next one. What have we got here? So yeah, no, instantly that one, that's an agaric. Beautiful gills underneath. It's got a stem. You can sort of see the annulus here. No vulva, unfortunately, but you can see that the cap is definitely separated from the from the back. Okay, next one. What is this? No guesses in the chat? Baby very deadly mushroom. Well, we're not getting any more in the chat. This is an agaric. Nobody got it right, it doesn't seem. But you can tell, because this, if you throw back to earlier, this is the partial veil. So this is a mushroom that's not quite ripe. So this is basically the sheath, this little veil that covers the gills, and when the mushroom is ripe, so I thought I'd throw you off by having one with this membrane on. So you can see there's no pores on it, so it can't be a bolete, or a polypore or anything like that. So this is a veil. This can come off. So if you ever buy mushrooms from the shop, next time have a look and see if they've got this membrane on. That's the partial veil. So yeah, that's an agaric. So second round. Which one is the real deal? I'm going to show you 3 different mushrooms, or 3 different types of mushroom, and for each one, I want you to tell me which one is real and which one is a phony that's trying to pretend to be it. So these are the 2 morels. I want to tell me which one is real. Okay, no more guesses seem to be floating through. What if I told you that when they were cut in half, they looked like that? Which one would you say then? If it ain't hollow, don't swallow. Yeah, well, remember that. So the morel is on the left. I think we all got it, other than one person who I hope now realizes it's because it's not hollow on the inside, but you can also see, oops, what have we got here? You have on a proper morel, you have these pits, actual like holes in the mushroom with all these like wobbly bits coming out, but this is basically just looks like a brain. There are no holes per se, it's just kind of wrinkles in the inside, but also it's not very much not hollow. So yeah. Well done everyone. Next one. Which one is yeah, following on from what Emily's saying, anyone have a guess at what they both are? And get it in the right order, because one is a death cap and one is something that isn't. So yeah, the death cap is on the left, and as Emily probably guessed, that is the destroying angel on the right, and you can tell because of the gorgeous white color. Death caps are always kind of a bit gross. Also, they've kind of got this like wobbly bits that I don't seem to see ever on a destroying angel, but I'm probably wrong. So yeah, well done. And then the last one. These are our chanterelles. Which one is real and which one is fake? So yeah, as we're coming through in the chat, what if I showed you again? Does that change anyone's idea or not? So we've got white flesh on the right and kind of gross-ass orange on the left. So yeah. Yeah, still right. The chanterelles have the white flesh, none of the other lookalikes do. So well done, everyone. I should have really put more in the quiz here. Sorry, this was a bit of a short talk. I felt like I could have covered a million different species, but I felt like I'd keep it concise and just kind of go through the main groups. So that just about does me. I'll go through some of the resources I've used. Wild Food UK has really good resources on what it looks like depending on like the cap, the stipe, the annulus, stuff like that, and compares it to lookalikes. First Nature breaks down the groups really well. Encyclopedia Britannica is what I've got used to get most of the information on the groups. Also, I thought I'd plug this book. Oh, I whacked myself in the face with a hard book. Ow. Well, there's a spider on the back. This is. Oh, I've got a spider on me now. That's great. This book is called Entangled Life by Merlin Sheldrake. It's a very good text about fungus being entwined with our lives, including stuff like mycorrhizae and mushrooms and the like. So it's good. Anyone have any questions? I'm happy to talk about mushrooms for a bit.
That was good. How many mushrooms are in the UK?
Oh, dude, there's like millions. It's impossible. I'll look it up on my the screen, but I reckon it's a lot. Yeah, roughly 15,000 types of mushroom in the UK. So
What?
I can't exactly cover all of them in a talk. Oh, what's my favourite? I thought I'd get that. So my favourite is this one. It's native to New Guinea, I think. I'm pretty sure that the photo of it that kind of gets circulated all the time is like is a kind of Photoshop one. I think I'm showing my screen right, so you can see that. This one's called Pixie's Parasol, and this is my favorite. I think it's a wax cap, but they're very, very pretty, and they're sort of semi-translucent, kind of blue, and they'll grow out stuff, and they're really gorgeous. Which is your favorite to eat? Mushrooms seem to disagree with me. I've only recently found this out. The only one I've ever actually foraged for was chicken of the woods. I kind of want to eat like a load more just like to taste them, but I think I'd regret it. I still have a load of the chicken of the woods in the freezer that I'm waiting to give to Rosie Shaw Moore, our campus rep. But yeah, me and Alex, our invert rep, went hunting through the viaduct and we accidentally found some. And then we brought it home and we had a little bit on his barbecue, and that was really nice. Oh, George was there as well. Oh God. Yeah. Well, to be fair, me and Alex found it and then we came back with you.
Yeah, to be fair, I didn't go.
So we went and I had a little bit of, I butter fried it, which is how you're supposed to cook foraged mushrooms, really. we had to do like a little test to make sure we weren't allergic to it and stuff like that. And then I had it in fajitas. I made some fajitas with it, like chuck it in some cumin and paprika, like you know, a bit of spice, and then with some peppers and onion and stuff in a wrap. And it just tastes like a cross between chicken, but it's sort of got the consistency of chicken, kind of with a little bit of cheese. It's sort of like slightly too easy to get through to be chicken, you know. But it was super nice. I'm not really out to tell people to go and forage for stuff because there's a lot of stuff that can very much kill you. Mushrooms are the one thing you don't really want to mess with.
I should probably put a disclaimer about that.
Yeah.
Do not endorse mushroom foraging.
Not technically. I'd like people to go out and figure
Not
it
officially.
out for themselves, I guess. But you really want to go and take an expert. I'm not an expert. We just found it and we're like, hang on, that's chicken of the woods. And then I looked up all the lookalikes and asked on a forum and stuff, and it was fleshy and it didn't do any of the decoloring and stuff. So we're like, yeah, let's just eat that. So I took a plunge and I didn't die, but you know, it's at your own risk. So whatever you feel comfortable doing. I would not recommend just going out after going to my mushroom talk and just eating a chicken of the woods, you know. But that's all right. I think we can finish up now if no one's got any more questions. Oh, it's good to hear. Hope to see a few of you at the social on Thursday.
Is there a social on Thursday?
There is.
Okay.
George.
I
Yeah.
Yeah, good job, Seb.
Yeah.
That was good. I feel slightly smarter.
That's all right. Fly Garrick. Yeah, it was. I read the story yesterday. I just kind of forgot. I think it was something like you used to like mush it up and then you could use it as a it like killed all the flies in your room or something. Fly Garrick. That's on Google, shall we? Or Fly Amanita. It was called something for a reason. I forgot. Oh yeah. Also, I forgot to mention Fly Garrick. If you eat it, it makes you hallucinate, but not like a good not like I say a good hallucination. It's not. It's sort of like, you know how like foxgloves give you hallucinations, but it's just because they cause brain damage. You know, it's not that kind of psilocybin. I don't think. There was a reason for it. Mythology and symbolism. Use in religious ceremonies, particularly in Asia. Hallucinogenic, yeah. Yeah, in those reports of human death. Yeah, used traditionally as an insecticide. The cap was broken up and sprinkled into saucers of milk, so then the flies would drink the milk and die. There you go. So it attracts insects, and then when they eat it, they die. Social is Thursday. I was on Thursday at I think 7 p.m. Yeah. All right. So I recorded this, so this will go up somewhere at some point. But yeah, thanks everyone for coming. I'm gonna stop recording.
That was good. Thanks, Seb.